Hail cheaters! Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. This is take 2, Brandon. First time around, there was a little bit of jury duty talk, so you'll just have to wait until we drop the
Pauly Shore movie?
Yeah, exactly. No, this is our secret behind the scenes. It'll be like our like Bob Dylan's whatever that series is called, Basement Tapes, like this is stuff that'll all come out years later, Brandon, our incredible right. Jury duty conversation.
Yes.
We also had a nice long chat about whether Arteta is a good manager or not. So it turns out we should just maybe talk FPL instead. Maybe the gods told us to quit focusing on non-FPL related things. Yeah. We just did a podcast a week ago where we did pretty non-FPL, I would say. A breakdown of all 20 Premier League teams and kind of quick thoughts. I mean, certainly we kept it FPL focused, but
it's hard to go straight FPL when you're just like, give me a hot take about Ipswich Town. You're going to bleed into what you actually think about the sport in reality, right?
Exactly. Which is part of the fun of the pod, I think. So, so you can go back and find that. Also last week there was no Premier League matches to talk about, and this time we have new matches coming. Game week 21 kicks off on Tuesday. We have your classic Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday run of fixtures, and this weekend, Brandon, we have more Premier League. So we got 2 Premier League game weeks in 2 weeks, all, Brandon, leading up to that big assistant manager release that everyone is, anxiously awaiting coming soon. So the game week 24 is when that
I'll say it again regarding the assistant manager chip, but credit to Lil Peasant 69 on FPL Reddit, who said, the assistant manager chip gives me 0 dopamine. And that is the mantra I think that Always Cheating will repeat as we talk about the Ass Man chip.
Exactly. And who knows? We have open minds here. Maybe it'll end up being fun. We probably felt this way when chips were introduced, Brandon. And there's nothing you love more than chip talk to this day, right? So
can't get enough.
Yeah. I love it when everybody coalesces and we all do exactly the same thing. That's what I like the most about chip talk. So anyway, here we go. We got all the snark was basically on the last podcast. I think we should just do some real talk here, Brandon. We had the FA Cup this weekend. It was a 2-day. Well, I guess it's 3 days. Yeah, 30 matches tomorrow. I can't remember how much they spread it out.
Yeah, there is a Millwall. Millwall is playing somebody. It's the most ridiculous sort of marquee Monday night match. It's Millwall hosting Dagenham and Redbridge, who play in the National League. True FA Cup match right there.
It's an opportunity to see those Millwall fans in action, right? Which is what people. It's probably why they have it on the the national coverage. So
I did get a little bit of the fever on Friday. I tuned in for the Aston Villa West Ham match, and I was my first takeaway was this anniversary kit, all black, that Aston Villa have dropped is sensational. It's already been talked about in our Patreon kit contest. Aston Villa will have to get relegated for it to qualify, I think, but because you can't be a Premier League team.
I don't even think alternate kits you count. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, that looks. Yeah. That's fantastic.
But as for like diehard FPL managers, an FA Cup weekend is often a reason to kind of take the weekend off, spend some time with the family. So now we sort of like crack our knuckles, and we get ready for the return of FPL on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think certainly even beginning with that match on Friday, there are some FPL takeaways. For one thing, so maybe a little not FPL. He's never really turned into an asset, but I feel fully validated in all of my Fulkrug criticism. which is like no offense to him, and it's a shame that he's injured again, but. My point was just like a club that aspires to be a sort of European contender, whether I'm not necessarily Champions League, but just like playing in Europe. Mm-hmm. Like your signings cannot be like 31-year-old players on the back half of their career, right? Like this is what happens to 31-year-olds. Like we see this with KDB, right? It's like Mo Salah is the rare exception. In general, these like 31-year-old and on players they're just constantly injured, right? They just constantly like have like muscle injuries and more. But Morgan Rogers back from suspension. I hope he's learned his lesson, Brandon, and he scored a goal in that match. So
assisted by Ollie Watkins, who generally looked poor in the match, but he had to play the full 90.
Have you moved Watkins yet, or is he still in your squad?
He's one of my considerations for Tuesday's deadline is to move Ali. One of the appealing assets would be João Pedro, but now there's news of him injuring his ankle in training. He wasn't in the squad for Brighton's FA Cup match. Now, I don't think that João Pedro or the manager Hertzler are in a position where they have to make up some injuries so they don't have to put João in the squad for an FA Cup match. So there's got to be some truth to that. How bad the injury is, though, it's hard to tell. So, we'll have to maybe talk a little bit about forward options for Tuesday. But Raul Jimenez, your boy, looks like the pick of the bunch going into the deadline. He scored another pen for Fulham in a 4-1 drubbing of Watford. So he's still on a roll.
Yeah, and he's it's just like he's the classic example of just like the cheap points you can get if you just have a pen taker in your squad, right? This has always been kind of Bruno's appeal as well, despite the fact that he can often be playing kind of deep in a team. So yeah, on that front, I mean, I think, we might as well just get right into the biggest match of the weekend, which was the Arsenal 1-1 draw with, obviously it wasn't a draw in the end. Man United won on penalty kicks, but 1-1 draw, Dallo red card, Gabriel, the center back goal, Bruno goal, Gabriel, the forward injury, Odegaard, 120 minutes and a missed pen, possible Timber injury. Am I missing anything, Brandon? It felt like
to complete the Gabriel set, you had a Gabriel Martinelli offside goal.
Right.
For whatever that's worth. But yeah,
something.
I think,
it's worth something.
Our concern with this match is Arsenal lost, but they also kind of lost a match that maybe they shouldn't have because Dallo went off with a red card with plenty of time for Arsenal to turn it around, and their attack just remains so muted without Saka, and no one's really stepping up. For a while, it looked like Gabriel Jesus was going to be the man, and now he was stretchered off. That's bad. Kai Havertz just had a god-awful match, and this is a big concern. You think Arsenal are definitely going to bring in a few mercenaries in this January window.
Yeah, it's just, they're kind of in a tough spot because they've been buying these... I guess I sort of think of them as like Roberto Firmino types, like these players who can play as forwards, but they're not necessarily the primary role is not necessarily to be a goal scorer, right? It's to sort of facilitate the rest of that sort of modern forward, Brandon. But you sort of see in the absence of Saka, how hard it is to score goals, right? If you don't have if you don't have a singular talent, right? And you don't have anybody who can just sort of poach a goal. And you talked about Raul Jimenez and his pens, having a premier pen taker is really important too, right? Just Saka's an excellent pen taker. I know he gives away every
Jorginho was on the pitch.
Yeah, that's true.
Why is he not? Odegaard's next on the list after Saka, so I get it.
Yeah, you're right. Jorginho scored. Did he score the winning pen in the Euros? Yeah, exactly. So, so just a kind of a tough spot for Arsenal. Tough loss. Certainly as someone who had Odegaard and it brought him in as kind of a failed transfer, it just makes me feel even more validated in moving on from him, despite them having a kind of acceptable run of fixtures. It wouldn't be essential to move on from him, but I have 2 transfers and I think it just makes sense. I just cannot. I'm just not seeing any evidence that an explosion is about to happen. Other than Spurs and their terrible defense are coming to the Emirates in midweek. So, I may give it one more day and just see if anybody gets injured. But otherwise, I'm going to do a kind of quasi luxury transfer and most likely move him on for Anthony Gordon. And then I have to kind of wait on this Urian Timber thing now. But most likely I'll move somebody to Lewis Hall, and I'll have this kind of all in on Newcastle lineup. But any other FPL related thoughts on the Arsenal Man United game? What about Bruno? Any takeaways? From
Bruno, it's just the same story with him where he had moments of insanity, throwing his boot on the ground after getting fouled because he didn't get the yellow card or didn't get the foul. And
I saw somebody joking that was the like Richie Tenenbaum, like,
right.
like
I thought more of somebody throwing their shoe at George W. Bush.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad. Yeah.
Lots of shoe related things that could happen. But on the whole, it's just this Manchester United team doesn't work without Bruno. He was everywhere on the pitch. He was working his butt off, and he got the goal. And I guess for me, the selfish takeaway was Ahmad came on as a sub late in the second half and generated a handful of opportunities on the counterattack. Looked pretty good.
Yeah. He always looks pretty good. I mean, looked good when he scored a week before as well.
Definitely. But defensively, well, the backup keeper whose name escapes me, he had a blinder. So suddenly, I don't think Onana has any immediate threat to his position, but I think it's nice for Manchester United to have some level of competition there, so Onana doesn't think like he can keep getting away with these things. So I think it's a good win. I think for morale too. Amorim was smiling on the sideline, so he's finally maybe having a good time in this job.
Good for him. He's there was like a very hyped managerial signing. I don't know. I guess like the draw with Liverpool was certainly encouraging, right? I mean, I guess it's honestly probably been the most encouraging week for him, right? With they did have the Man City win, but that was like slightly fluky, right? 2 goals in the last.
So all of the results are coming against Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool.
Yeah.
Let's see what this is like. Weirdly, the true test now is Manchester United hosting the worst team in the division. Can they do it?
Yeah, that's true.
Can they care enough?
Yeah, that is true. And so, do you have any because the other move I could make would be Odegaard to Bruno, and honestly, it's probably the better move. It's just like I just have a little bit of a Bruno thing where it's I don't know, like clearly he's just such a frustrating player.
Sure.
And I don't even necessarily mean as a player, like just as a fantasy player, right? Like as an actual player, I really rate him, right? He does a lot of things that are excellent, but there's a element of him in fantasy where it's like he like when you sort of compile all of the data from a match, you're like, oh, this is incredible, right? Like all the stuff he's doing, all the shots he's taking, the chances he's creating. Yeah. But then you just end up seeing like, well, yeah, but he's got 2 points, 3 points, 1 point, 3 points. It's like sort of you can fluke your way into like a 20-point haul with him, but I don't know. I mean, he's been in the fantasy game long enough that we do not think of him as a premier asset, right? He is a like right time, right place fantasy asset.
Yep. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's very close between him and Gordon, which might tell you what you need to know there, and that Gordon is the better pick just because he's cheaper, and if there's not much in it, better go for the cheaper guy. And Gordon is technically in better form. It really is just that Southampton fixture where you feel like Bruno's ceiling is super high.
Yeah, but Southampton have been better too. I mean, they had a 3-0 win. I know it was the FA Cup, but still a 3-0 win. It does seem like they've been a little bit better since they sacked Martin.
They got throttled by Brentford at home.
That's right.
I don't know.
Forgot about that. I'm a what have you done for me lately type manager, Brandon. But let's compare. So Man United have Southampton at home. I'm just looking like the next 4 matches. Sure. Southampton at home, Brighton at home, Fulham away, Palace at home. So strong. 3 out of 4 home matches. Newcastle have Wolves at home, Bournemouth at home, Southampton away, and Fulham at home. So you get that Southampton fixture just a couple weeks later and away. Wolves and Bournemouth versus Southampton and Brighton. That's pretty close, I'd say. So yeah, honestly, it's like a coin flip, I think, between like who I think in both cases there are like a lot of there's a lot of potential from both of them. I guess I just don't totally trust Man United still under Amorim. And I just like it feels like they're kind of inconsistent, right? It's like you said, they have been able to kind of step up in like the biggest matches and have weirdly struggled, I think, a little bit to break down some of the lesser opposition.
Yeah, I agree. And then Arsenal, it's like suddenly we're in territory where you could consider getting rid of Timber instead of another defender. I mean, is doubling up on this this, I mean, all the talk this week, I'm sure, is going to be about how David Raya continues his. I'm going to cheat this way, and then get scored on the other side of the goal. He's in an odd run of form.
Like when Mbomo kind of showed the way, right, when they played Brentford a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah, so Arsenal really had to, shake themselves out of this from an FPL point of view, because we've all invested quite a lot in their defense.
Yeah, I'm tripled up. I mean, and out of their, I mean, I have those two in Odegaard, and I mean, their run up ahead is, it's not ideal from like a doubled up standpoint. You've got Spurs at home, which, like, again, these are all matches where they could keep a clean sheet, but it's not going to be easy, certainly, right? North London Derby, Villa at home in game week 22. I mean, in some ways, I think that's arguably even tougher match to keep a clean sheet in, just given the kind of variety of attack, and then you've got the Unai Emery element, right? Where I just sort of, I don't know, like, I mean, did these guys care about like revenge matches? Probably not, but like, at the very least, he's like comfortable on that ground, right? And Wolves away, I mean, probably not a terrible fixture, but it's still away, right? And Wolves, have been a little bit better of late too. And then Man City, and so there's really not one match in the next 4 weeks where you look at it and you're like, yep, that's the one. That's the clean sheet, right? Yeah. So, I think it would be fine to I guess there's still an element of like I don't know, coverage, or like kind of it's a defensive move in some ways to be doubled up. I mean, virtually everybody has two, and so on the one hand, there's like you could move early, and there's an advantage there. On the other hand, if they keep a clean sheet, which is but where? Yeah, exactly. So you have Lewis Hall, who a lot of people already have. I mean, Dallo was one of those names that was getting thrown around, right? But he's going to miss the Southampton match. I guess
Forest,
the other
speak their names. Yeah, say a Forest defender's name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Forest, who have honestly, they have an okay run once you get past the Liverpool match in game week 21. It's pretty tricky, I think. Yeah, Forest. I really don't know. I mean, it's if you don't have Anthony Robinson, you can just get him as a kind of like two-way player, right? It's like it seems like every time they concede, he still gets like some kind of attack in return, right? To balance things out.
And we should say for Fulham's fixtures, they do have the pick, at least for the next couple of matches. It's West Ham. And West Ham, going back to the Friday's Aston Villa West Ham match, it was Graham Potter's first match in charge, and West Ham looked properly motivated. Particularly like Paqueta he looked like he really wanted to reinvigorate his career through Graham Potter. He looked pretty good. Of course, they just didn't have enough gas in the tank to keep up with Villa for the entire 90 minutes. But so Fulham, West Ham away, and then Leicester away. Two away matches, but palatable nonetheless for potential clean sheets and forward returns.
Yeah. So, I think it's going to be, the one thing I was just going to add before, which is that when evaluating Man United too, I think like the fact that they just played 120 minutes on Sunday, I think does have to be a little bit of a factor as well, right? Like it's a pretty tough competitive match. And so if you're kind of debating between like Newcastle and Man United assets, like it, that little difference where just, like Newcastle were basically able to play like Isak didn't even get a minute in this match, right? And virtually everybody else came on late. So, I do think that's a factor as well.
Yeah. I would agree with that. What else
anything
else in the FA Cup we need to talk about?
Well, just like I'll just do like a quick lightning round, rundown here. Spurs 3-0. Kulu, who just again has been so steady this season, like the one kind of steady and consistent player in the squad. Brennan Johnson also scored. Solanke was rested for the first 68 minutes of the game. So if you still have Solanke, that's encouraging news for midweek. Palace with a 1-0 win as a goal. Maybe we start to talk about defenders. I mean, Palace have a really nice run ahead, Brandon. So maybe there's something there too. Like they certainly have some cheap defenders as well. Or you could spend a little bit more and get Munoz.
We're not even talking about, just coming back to your Solanke point, and we just spent like a few minutes talking about Arsenal. It's the North London Derby. midweek.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a shame they're like tossing it into a Wednesday. Like I know it's prime time in England, but here in the US, it's like it's weird to have North London Derby that I'm going to like try to second screen during like a Zoom call, but it's I'm sure it'll be fantastic regardless. I talked about Newcastle already. Wolves, another 8 Norrie goal in a 2-1 win. Liverpool, Salah, Diaz, Van Dijk, and Robbo, both kind of like the perfect match for Liverpool. Salah, Diaz, Van Dijk, Robbo all got full rest. Trent got a goal, and then I think he was subbed off at halftime. So
60 minutes, I think.
Was it 60 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, but still early sub and the goal, so that's fine. Chelsea win. Cole Palmer got the full rest. I don't really. I mean, there was like a missed pen from Nkuko. There's really not too much fantasy wise. I think we need to talk about there.
No.
Man City. Mubama, who is starting to like his name starting to crop up a little bit. Brandon. Really just like one to watch if Haaland got injured, right? But he is a 4.5 million forward, Brandon, who played and got a goal in that match. Haaland got the full rest, so just like file it away, file and forget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suddenly forgetting who was the player. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. Who was the player who got injured in preseason? That was
Oscar Bob.
Yeah, Oscar Bob. Is there any news on Bob?
He's back on grass. So there were training photos for him. Okay. So looks like he'll be back playing before the season's out.
Yeah, he's at 25%. Lack of match fitness. So I know, what a shame. Yeah, not a single minute so far this season. We all remember his 1 goal and 2 assists last year, don't we, Brandon?
I do remember that Newcastle goal was amazing.
Yeah, you probably even remember that 1 goal was he has 1.5 XG and 1.1 XA. These are all just off the top of my head, Brandon. I'm not
incredible
website
performance from Josh Landon here.
Yeah, thank you. Then Villa, West Ham. We talked about that already. Rodgers' goal and Fulkrug injured again. Real forward crisis now for Villa. I guess you probaby. They have a number of players who can score goals, right?
Danny Ings for West Ham we're talking about.
Yeah, West Ham. Yeah. I suppose you'd have Ings. They never really feel inclined to play Bowen out of position as a forward. I guess he's obviously fantastic on the right wing and somebody they just don't want to deal with. You move him and then you just got to replace him with, it's like you solve one problem and then another problem you just create there. So, I don't know. Ings to me is like clearly not any kind of long-term answer, right? So
not at all. He's cooked. He's gassed. Yeah. He's out of it. He's over the hill. Yeah. He's done.
It would be interesting to see Kudus play as an out of position forward. Maybe I'm crazy here, but I just think like that guy can really score, and he's super fast. He likes to get in the box. He likes to shoot. I don't know, this might just be like FPL wish fulfillment because he's like 6.2 million in the game. But like when I look at that squad, like I'm sure like West Ham fans are like, I'm an idiot, which is fair enough. But like, probably. I do feel like he is quite a talented player, and I feel like he's kind of due for a breakout. So maybe we'll see it, Brandon. Who knows? Maybe I'm
we'll
wishing
see.
This into existence.
We'll see.
All right. Well, let's keep going here. Patreon, Brandon, the second half league. You have the Premier League, FPL, non-FPL, second half kit contest, Brandon. You can enter your name now just by becoming a Patreon supporter at any pledge level. You can enter the contest. And if you win the second half league, and this will kick off in GW21, actually. So it kicks off in 2 days, Brandon. So time's a wasting. Make sure you get in there. If you're a Patreon supporter and you have not, you don't have the code yet, let us know. It's in the Discord. I need to drop it into the Patreon too. I need to remember to do that ahead of Game Week 21 kicking off, but I will do that. So it's a fresh start. You could be at, like maybe you haven't played fantasy all season, Brennan. You're still listening to this pod because you just never felt like unsubscribing. I don't know. For whatever reason, you're still listening to this pod and you want a fresh start. It kicks off in Game Week 21 on Tuesday. Fresh points from there. The winner of that second half kit contest gets a kit of their choice. The only stipulation is that it cannot be a Premier League kit. It has to be a non-Premier League kit. It can be a Brazilian kit. It can be non-European. It can just be non-league. It can even be from the championship. You don't have to go crazy here. If you really just want the latest, I don't know, maybe some Doncaster, Brandon. Maybe you want the latest Doncaster kit. Mm-hmm. Sure. You will get that kit, and we will also get kits ourselves, Brandon, and we will show them on the pod so people can see us modeling our kits, just like I have my lovely kit right here from last season.
Dulwich Hamlet,
exactly. So thank you to Pateri Salo and Richard for becoming Patreon supporters just in the last couple of days. So Brandon, it works. You start a contest and Patreon supporters will come.
They come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of supporters, I did want to quickly mention, we're a US-based podcast, and the big news in the States has been the wildfires in California. We have a number of Patreon supporters and listeners who are in Southern California. Yep. Some of them are actually being impacted by the fires. We've got a nice note from our longtime Patreon supporter, Nick, who lives in I think it's the Pasadena area. He and his family had to evacuate. He sent me a list, a link to an Eaton Canyon fire relief site. So if you're so inclined, I'm going to drop the link to this webpage in our show notes. Whatever, if you want to do something, I think that the best thing I feel like you can do is reach out to your friends, just make sure they're okay and they can maintain that sense of community. But just thinking about everyone out there who has been touched by this horrible natural disaster.
I know. And it feels like it's, I know. It feels like we might have more of these to come. So it's a huge bummer.
Right.
But so good. Reminder there. Now I'm a little down now after that. That's a good.
I'll bring
note.
it back up. And certainly this is why we love sports and FPL, of course, because they can distract us. And I think that there are a lot of people out there in real need of a distraction. So we'll take the Patreon plug into our Game Week 1 preview.
Well, right. We didn't even tell people where to become a Patreon supporter. So
go to Patreon.com.
Patreon.com/alwayscheating.
That's right.
Where you can support the podcast, and you also get an extra podcast each week. All right. So like you said, let's get into Game Week 21. So we have a pretty well-balanced spread of matches, 4 on Tuesday, 4 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday. It'd be wild if there were 4 on Thursday. That'd be incredibly balanced, and I guess someone would have to play twice. But lots of captaincy questions this week, Brandon. There's, Isak, Bry asked about, some of our Patreon supporters were asking us about who they may captain. Francis asked if Haaland was the best captaincy shout. Bry asked, will I break Isak by captaining him this week? Other people are saying, do we just keep sticking with Salah? And just, he's been incredibly consistent, but they are playing one of the tougher defenses that we've seen this season. And you and I probably honestly not bigged up the Forest defense as much as we should. Although I feel like we've been correcting that in recent weeks. Maybe that was true back in November, Brandon, but I think we've served our penance.
Sure. Forest are responsible for one of Mo's 4 blanks this season. Earlier in the season, he was shut out goals and assist wise.
So what do you think? I mean, neither of us have Haaland. I think, if I did, would I want a fully rested Haaland away to Brentford? Not really. G-Tech at night, Brandon. I've said this before. It is a tough place to play. I mean, I don't know. Arsenal just went in there and had a pretty nice win a couple of weeks ago. But to me, that still feels like the exception. I do think that it's a tough place to play these evening matches there. And I don't know. Maybe this is a false narrative that I just continue to peddle. But I don't know. I still don't feel any strong inclination to bring in Haaland, nor would I guess if I had him, I might captain him.
This is the appeal of getting Haaland back. So the reason why we've enjoyed not having Haaland is there's been no need or desire to captain him. Yeah. And there is a week like this where suddenly you're reminded oh man, it would be great to have an asset where I had at least some basis of faith that this guy could actually do something. Such as it is, I generally agree with you that Man City, 2 wins on the trot in the league, and but Haaland only really returned against West Ham, a team that presumably kind of quit on Lopetegui. As mentioned, it looks like Graham Potter is going to, get that squad a bit more motivated. And without a lot of attacking firepower, do you think West Ham are just going to park the bus? I'm not sure. In front of their home fans, I don't know, but
don't see it.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be taking hits to get Haaland in just to get some sort of a strong captaincy option. No, so by that logic, I don't think any of us will even have Haaland, let alone captain him.
Yeah, if you had him, I think it's fine to do. I mean, he was fully rested. It does seem like Man City have righted the ship. Like, not clear to me if it's too late to win the title. I'm certainly not counting them out, but so yeah, I think I just feel because I feel a little more confident in Man City, that makes me feel a little more confident in Haaland as well, right? Like it's this stuff like confidence and form. Like these are things that are real. Like whether you there's a way to kind of easily quantify them or not, right? Like I do think that it was just so clear for a while that Man City were just kind of switched off, right? And Haaland him as well, right? Mm-hmm. And just sort of disappearing in matches. And I don't think, and I think it just doesn't feel like that's the vibe we're getting from them right now. So who knows? Like maybe I don't know, New Year, and there was just I really don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like anything's changed. It's not like anyone's come back from injury.
No, and I don't think we should be jumping the gun to think like Man City are suddenly going to push on and challenge for the title. I think we're still going to see them stumble a bit. I don't think whatever issues that they've been going through, I don't think they're done or gone.
No, I don't think they're done, but I still feel like, it could be, I don't know, like it's until they stop winning the Premier League, I still am going to put them in the Premier League contender territory.
Well, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I think that the two alternates to Mo Salah don't include Haaland. It's really Isak or Bruno. And maybe you put Anthony Gordon as an alternative option.
Yeah. No Cole Palmer at all then?
No, I would not. No, I think Bournemouth are a really good side. And I think Chelsea, it's very much, it can be feast or famine, which is a good thing for the captaincy on Cole Palmer. But I wonder if where consistency feels better for the captaincy this week as opposed to shooting for that big haul from Palmer.
Yeah. I think Isak is probably the pick. It just sort of makes sense. I mean, I honestly think Salah is fine. I think you could just sort of trust in him to find his way to an attacking return, or if not two, in the four. I mean, for us or not, we're not talking about I don't know, like 2005 AC Milan or something like that. They've been quite good, but still, as is Liverpool's attack, right? So, I mean, Liverpool had a 4-0 win while resting kind of most of their top attacking players, right? So over the weekend, and so I think. But Isak, I mean, he honestly has been super consistent. I mean, he has an attacking return in every game week going back to game week 14. That includes 3 double-digit attacking returns during that run. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a strong argument. And that includes returns in pretty difficult environments, right? Like away to Man United, even away to Spurs in game week 20. So, yeah, I think that you could certainly make a strong case for Isak. I mean, where are you right now? What are your?
I mean, my bus team, I have Salah captained and Isak vice captained. But that's like true bus team of I'm not really going to give this too much thought right now.
It's tricky. I'm actually switching. I'm switching to Isak as we talk. I'm doing it. Yeah. I don't know. He also plays a day later, so you get a little bit of a fun factor there. Mm-hmm. Whether you like that kind of logic or not,
do you like fun?
Yeah. Do you well, just like that kind of thinking. That kind of thinking can be kind of dumb sometimes. I will freely admit. I don't know. I think it's gonna be tricky. Between those two, yeah. I think Palmer probably deserves a little more. Of a little more of a shout.
State your case. Tell me why.
No, I mean, he's got double-digit returns in 2 of the last 3 matches. He's probably the second best attacking player in fantasy, like outside of Mo Salah. So
when we give any consideration to the fixture.
Well, it's still Brentford or Bournemouth at home. I mean, Bournemouth aren't that good. Like they're like a mid-table squad. Like they're not, they've lost. Know. I mean, how many losses do they have this season?
They're proving otherwise this season. I mean, they're 7th in the table. I just think that Chelsea, when the game is open, is exciting and can produce goals, and this is like their bread and butter. Yeah. I think Iraola is tactically astute enough to not give Chelsea what they want. And what we have seen of Chelsea at their worst this season is when they don't get it their way, they can struggle.
Right.
And this is, it feels like maybe it's like a 1-0 win for Chelsea. It just feels like a Chelsea win, but tighter to me.
It was certainly it was a very tough fixture away to the Vitality earlier this season. Was that a 0-0? I think it was a 0-0 in the end, the first time they played. So, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I would say that he's like 3rd on my list. I feel like I can't.
Bournemouth won 1-0.
Was it a 1-0? Okay,
so blank for Palmer.
Okay. So I think that it's if Saka were healthy, I think he would have been an option. Certainly, home to Spurs, but he's not, Brandon. He's not. And then I think Bruno. They do play Thursday, so that you have a nice little 3-day gap between their Sunday match and when they play Southampton. But again, I guess I'm just a little concerned about maybe a bit of a hangover from the Arsenal fixture. I don't know. I mean, 3 days is Bruno he never really. The thing is, he always looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. So it's like you can't. But he always plays, right? Like I don't feel like I've ever seen like Bruno look ragged on the pitch. It seems like he's always kind of like he comes It's like the denim you get that's like pre-rinsed and whiskered. It's like that's what Bruno's like. It's like you just get Bruno like strung out, and that's just like the way he is from like the first minute. And so it's like Steve Martin, where he had the white hair, in the 70s. You could never really tell how old he was for the next like 30 years.
Sure.
It's like I got more of these where I can keep going, Brandon, but I'll stop there. But you get my point.
What about when Laura Palmer, her dad in Twin Peaks, when his hair goes white?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or when Laura Palmer plays younger in Firewalk with Me, but you can't tell because she's older. Mentally, she's gone through so much already, Brandon. Exactly. So, anyway, so that's where we are with Bruno. I think I don't know. I cannot. This is actually like a problem for me this season, which is that I am starting. I feel like you've actually I've gotten worse about this, and you've gotten better about this, which is that I feel like I'm carrying the scars of old Bruno ownership with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I had this problem with Lewis Hall for a while. It was hard for me to bring him back in because I'd gotten royally screwed when I had him to start the season. And so it's it's harder for me to go with Bruno just because, I would just be so annoyed if I got screwed again having him.
The way I look at it, it's like my mom, she's an old retiree now. And the more I speak to her, the more I'm like, Mom, do you have any friends? Like, what happened to your friends? And I get the suspicion that she's said the wrong thing to virtually all of her friends at this point. And to where she doesn't have a lot of friends. So what I'm saying is with FPL, like if I didn't bring back these players who I had grievances with, I would have no friends. I would have nobody to bring, nobody left to bring into my squad.
That's a good point. Yeah, and you've got to trust like who are the players that are your true, like you, like sort of famously with Richarlison. You've just decided he's not your dude, right? And
not my dude. I would bring him in though if the circumstances were right.
Showed up at your door and asked you, like, I feel like it would take a lot.
Yeah, he'd Love Actually style. He'd have the like white poster board where he'd written on like Brandon, I promise a hat trick for you.
Or maybe a little bit like what's the Meg Ryan Tom Hanks movie with the bookstore?
You've got mail.
You've got mail. Yeah, exactly. Like,
he could send me an email.
If you had a little like text relationship and then you showed up. Although the first time,
it's Richarlison. Richarlison. I've been texting with Richarlison.
So the first time Richarlison went there and you got nervous and didn't show up. Yeah, you've been texting with Richarlison the whole time. Who knew your English pen pal was Richarlison this whole time?
Oh man.
Yeah. So what was my point? Oh yeah. So my guy, Raheem Sterling is like that for me a little bit, where I will never trust him again. Like it's like like after multiple years of trying again and again, I was like, nope, he's Nicholas Jackson might be heading towards that territory a little bit too, where it's
have you ever owned that guy in fantasy?
Nicholas Jackson?
Yeah.
Multiple times. I had him. Yeah, I had him at the start of the 2023-24 season for several weeks. And then I had him, I think near the end of the season as well. So, I'm a two-time at least Nicholas Jackson.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. You can talk to
I'm not putting him there yet. Okay. I've got faith, but, that he can, everyone gets 3 chances with Josh Landon, Brandon. So that is the question. Is Bruno on? I mean, I've had Bruno on and off for, I don't know, 50 times at this point. Like, how many years has he been in the Premier League for? Like, it's like 6 seasons maybe. I probably owned him 3 times.
It's disgusting how many times that man's been in and out of everybody's team.
Yeah, I would say I would hazard if it's 18. He has been transferred in 18 times into my fantasy team. Would be my a rough estimate. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like Gordon is another one where. His ceiling is a little lower than Bruno, I would say. Yeah. But he has been quite good. I mean, much like Isak, he has attacking returns in the last 5 matches. If you want to, if you look past the blank in 15, then attacking returns in 13 and 14 as well. So, what is that? 7 out of 8 matches, which is fantastic. Again, it came on at halftime in the FA Cup over the weekend and scored a goal like 4 minutes after he came on the pitch. So confidence should be high. Whereas, Bruno is a little streakier, right? I mean, you had him like 3 weeks ago, right? For exactly 1 week where he
got a red card.
Yeah, he got a red card. But then he came back, got an assist and bonus. I mean, he is a bonus magnet, right? Like if he gets an attacking return, you're going to get bonus points. Yeah. So there is some value there.
I think I like Bruno despite my better Angels, I think he's a pick. I think he's a pretty good pick this week.
I think he's a pretty good pick too. Is he a good pick for several weeks? I don't know. He's slightly. I worry about the consistency, but I'm going to give it a good think, Brendan. I'm going to give it a day.
Just go for 1 week. 1 week, shoot the moon. With Bruno.
That's true. It's been 1 week since I had Bruno. Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: if you decided to punt on Bruno this week, would you captain him?
Like, I'm genuinely thinking about it.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, I don't think so. The thing is, I could just captain Isak, right? And so it's like, why wouldn't I just do that? Like, it's like a home fixture against a pretty bad defense. He's in spectacular form. Didn't just play 120 minutes, within the last couple of days. Got fully rested, in fact. I don't know. I mean, to me, like, it's sort of. And so no. And so if I don't even think I'd want to captain him, does that mean I shouldn't even transfer him in? I don't know. It's interesting. So maybe I just don't. Maybe I just keep Odegaard. How about that? Just ride it out with him.
Well, we've got a related question. Just got a great super chat from Siddharth Gabuchkar. Thank you. Sorry for the pronunciation there, Siddharth, but thank you for the super chat. He wants to know, is it worth getting Gordon for Diaz for a hit? So this is an extreme move.
Diaz for
a
hit.
Talking about the potential of Gordon just sort of like on the outskirts of the captaincy discussion. Diaz sort of like has become a quasi-minutes risk. Do you think and we looked at the fixtures for Newcastle over the next 3 too, which look pretty good. Does that -4 pay you back?
I don't think so. I mean, Diaz got a full rest over the weekend, right? So he's like 99.9% starter lock for midweek. That alone sort of takes away some of the appeal, I think, right? Especially for a hit. So
I agree. And Diaz is the sort, I understand the anxiety for Diaz holders where you're just like, what kind of minutes are we going to get? And then with the Forest match being as touchy as it is, but just Diaz is so explosive. And he is, in the Make Fantasy Fun Again spirit, just a fun player to have for those explosive moments.
Yeah.
So I say keep the faith.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's. What else do we want to talk about? I mean, maybe it's a quick turnaround, Brendan. You know, another reminder that the games kick off on Tuesday.
Well, let's just look closer at these fixtures. I'm always fond of the question of if you were to recommend one fixture, and being midweek, particularly us here in the Western Hemisphere, you might have to pick one fixture to dip out to watch. Yeah. What's the one that you really just have your pure watch eye on?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think putting the North London Derby aside, which is appealing for lots of reasons, especially this season, could be anyone could win that match, really. I think that Forest Liverpool is a really interesting match, right? It's a real test for both squads. Liverpool just coming off that kind of shock 2-2 draw. I think really it felt like they had kind of done what they'd done a lot this season, right? Get the big late goal, go up 2-1, and then Forest. I mean, this is like a test for them, right? Like, could they really make the?
Are they
Champions
pretenders?
League? Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'd be amazing for them to win to make the Champions League, and super excited. If you're like kind of a neutral who doesn't support like one of these big clubs, I think it's like if you're like even if you're like a Man City supporter, right? And like Man City is on the outs in the final stretch of the season, like you're going to be rooting for Forest as well, right? It's just knock another one of the big boys out of the Champions League too. I think that to me stands out as the most interesting fixture. I don't know if it'll be a good fixture to watch though, but it could end up being a kind of cagey, like you said, 1-0, 0-0 kind of.
There are a lot of good fixtures when you kind of step back and look at this slate. I mean, all the reasons we discussed, Chelsea, Bournemouth. I think that's going to be a battle. Everton, David Moyes is back.
That's crazy. I can't believe we should have talked about that earlier. That is wild.
How depressing is this? I mean, in some ways,
it's like when Kenny Dalglish came back to Liverpool.
I hesitate to say maybe Dalglish is more beloved at Liverpool than.
Moyes has to be pretty beloved, though, right?
Sure.
I mean,
he saw that club through some very good times. It's true.
Yeah.
But I think Everton catch Villa at a good time, where Villa are kind of just like in between. And as you noted, Villa will be thinking about the Champions League match that's just around the corner.
Yep.
So I think that's a good one. And then like Ipswich Brighton, what do you think about that match? I mean, Ipswich is like in a good run of form. Brighton kind of teetering. That one could be a really fun watch.
That could be fun. I mean, what else is really fun? I mean, did you say Brentford Man City?
Let's stick on Ipswich Brighton. Give me a prediction there. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, Brighton have kind of fallen off, right? They had this like amazing start to the season. Look like they might be up there with kind of Forest in terms of maybe challenging for a Champions League spot. They're defensively, they don't feel strong enough, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing that Ipswich have been able to do is kind of score goals. Even this weekend, I think they had 3 goals in their FA Cup match. So I don't know, like a 2-2 draw seems like a possible result in this one.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
I like a 2-1 Brighton, maybe. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the 2-1 scoreline. It basically means if anybody scores, your prediction is still
2-1 is the 2-1 is the dream. It's like, but I think honestly, I'd probably slightly favor Ipswich to win this one. I mean, they're probably the best run of form they've been in so far in the Premier League, and they're just kind of overall. And I like this team. I like watching them play. And so maybe this is. The Forest Liverpool match is important from a kind of like stakes. Like if you're if you're a sportscaster setting up the midweek, that'd be the one to target. But from a this could just be a really fun open match. I do think that Ipswich Brighton might be that match, right? Like to me, it's like the ultimate is like Ipswich Brentford, right? Where you just like you're going to see 7 goals. It's totally unclear in what way those 7 goals are going to be scored. Yeah. Like it could be a 6-1, could be a 4-3, 5-2. Anything is either way, right? Anything's on the dock. And I think Ipswich Brighton could be a kind of lesser version of that.
All right, so it's going to be an exciting week. We still have a few decisions to make, and certainly if you're a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/alwayscheating, you get immediate access to our Discord, where we're going to be chopping it up with our supporters, helping them with their decisions, posting our teams and our logic. So we'll see you all there. And
I was going to add, Brendan, what is your plan for this week? By the way, I talked before. I'm leaning towards those Newcastle assets, but I'm going to wait on the Timber injury news.
Yeah, right now I feel comfortable enough rolling contingent on what the chatter is about Watkins.
Okay.
You know, is Duran back? It's kind of unclear to me what Duran's situation is. If it looks like Ollie Watkins is set to start, then I think I'm going to roll my transfer with an eye to turning Watkins and Ahmad into two different players going into game week 22. So just looking to maybe buy myself some time. If Watkins gets the start against Everton, I just feel like it's so marginal. Whoever I would bring in his place to be an up.
I mean,
edge.
you have like maybe Jimenez. Holland is hard to get to, obviously. Chris Wood, not the right fixture for it, right?
And I have Chris Wood already.
Oh, you have Chris Wood already. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah.
I think João Pedro just feels like the perfect move ultimately. So it's kind of like if there is certainty that João Pedro can start and there's some doubt over Ollie Watkins, right. I think that's the one move I'm kind of looking at right now.
Yeah, and I guess with Pedro's slight fitness worry, but we'll see on that front. Yep. The only one I would throw out there would be Mateta, who is Palace do have a really nice run of fixture. Listen, I'm not gonna like shake you by the shoulders and tell you to get Jean-Philippe Mateta, but
there are no bad ideas on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But did score in game week 20, I mean, I don't know. Last season he was fantastic.
Scored.
I know he still has not been able to like capture his form from last season. If you're kind of hard to believe, but he had 16 goals and 7 assists last season for Palace. Incredible. Now, I think Michael Elise was helpful in that regard in multiple ways, right? Both in terms of setting up opportunities and also taking some attention away. But regardless, I do think that he could find a run of form at some point. And so he's another one to watch.
I like it. Yeah. We all want to see these guys do well, and Palace would certainly be appreciative.
Yeah. Give us more options.
Could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So we're close on our decisions, but not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Johan Vissa always hanging out there too. And you don't have, you don't have Mbomo either. So
so that's the double move I'm thinking about in game week 22 is Mbomo back for Ahmad and Watkins being priced at 8.8. I could get pretty much any forward I wanted still with getting Mbomo.
Yeah, it could be the worst possible time to do it. That's the only problem, right? Because Man City and Liverpool are they're 21 and 22. It's like you must just want to forget about Brentford for like 5 days, and then come back and make those moves.
Yeah, he's in such good form though, that Mbomo kid.
I know that's true. This has been fantastic too. So, all right, well, let's wrap things up there. Again. Fairly short pod this week, but just because of that rapid turnaround, I think it makes sense to get right into it. So that's where we are. Good luck to everybody in game week 21. We'll be back on Thursday evening with a short game week 22 preview for our Patreon supporters. Get into things a little bit, and then hopefully we'll have great news to report, Brendan. Good, exciting news from our squads and our possible transfers or non-transfers, I expect us to feel fully validated on Thursday evening.
Too right. Yeah. Here's hoping anyway.
Yeah, here's hoping. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, before we go, Josh, we need to say thank you to our dearly beloved producers.
I know. What is with me? I think it's the restart threw me out, like put me in a weird space. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, forgive me.
All right. Well, you're forgiven on behalf of producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wegner, Lodall, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazaros Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Bubs Kuhn, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, As He Does It, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tislov, Fred Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadakia, Rishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, James Murray Wood, James C., James Holland, Scully, Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, and Francis Mann. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Follow us wherever you get social media, and visit our website, alwayscheating.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Talk to you soon.